I never thought I'd walk into my own house and feel like a stranger, but that's exactly what happened the night I realized my family had thrown an entire Thanksgiving party inside the home I paid for, lived in, and cared for. Without inviting me, without telling me, without even acknowledging that I existed. And not just any party, no. This was the kind of celebration where the whole house smelled like roasted turkey and cinnamon spices. Every table was covered with expensive decorations. Every room filled with laughter and warmth, and none of it was because of me. None of it included me. Imagine walking up to your front door and hearing music blasting, people cheering, someone yelling, "Dinner's ready," while plates clatter and kids run around laughing. Now imagine realizing you're not supposed to be there. Imagine realizing they planned all of this behind your back. So tell me, was I wrong for what I did afterward? Because trust me, I made them regret it big time. But before I get there, let me tell you how all of this started and why that night changed everything about how I see my family. For as long as I can remember, Thanksgiving used to be the one holiday I actually looked forward to. Everyone else in my family saw it as a way to flex, bringing fancy dishes, showing off achievements, pretending everything in their life was perfect. But for me, it had always been simple. I liked the feeling of togetherness. The idea of everyone gathered around one table. The warm food. The jokes, the stories. I'm not a very complicated person. My life never revolved around appearances or bragging rights like my siblings. I worked hard, lived quietly, and did what I could to help wherever help was needed. I bought the house we all grew up in after my parents passed, not because I wanted property or prestige, but because I couldn't stomach the thought of letting strangers buy the place where we spent our childhood. I'd always been the dependable one, the one who showed up, the one who helped everyone move, loaned money, checked in when nobody else did. And maybe that was my first mistake. Maybe when you set yourself on fire to keep others warm, they start thinking the fire belongs to them. It started months before Thanksgiving. My oldest sister, Nadia, had been dropping hints about doing something special this year. At first, I didn't think much of it. She was always dramatic, always the organizer, always the one acting like she was the unofficial head of the family. The problem was, she never lifted a finger unless she got all the credit. My other sister, Aisha, followed her like a shadow. Whatever Nadia said, she repeated. Whatever Nadia planned, she supported. And then there was my younger brother, Hamza, who didn't care about anything unless it involved food or enjoying himself. If something required effort, he disappeared. If something involved eating or celebrating, suddenly he was available. You know the type. But that year something felt different. They were having conversations without me, quick text exchanges that conveniently ended the moment I entered the group chat. They'd laugh on calls together while I was muted or ignored. Anytime I asked what was going on, they'd brush me off with excuses like, "Oh, nothing, just planning things," or "We'll update you later." Except later never came. I assumed maybe they were planning a surprise for me, or maybe for all of us. Maybe they were just trying something new. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I stayed patient. But deep down, something in my gut told me it wasn't good. Families don't suddenly start whispering behind your back for no reason. They don't suddenly include each other in everything while excluding one person unless they've decided something about you. Something they're too afraid or too guilty to say out loud. Fast forward to the week of Thanksgiving. I'd been working double shifts because the company I work for was handling a big end-of-year project, so I barely had time to breathe. My siblings knew this. They knew I was exhausted, mentally drained, and barely sleeping. But instead of asking if I needed help, or if I wanted to spend the holidays somewhere peaceful, they became even more secretive. Group chat messages were now happening at 2 a.m. when I was clearly asleep. Photos would be posted, then deleted. Plans were being made, just not with me. At this point I knew something was happening. I just didn't know what. The night before Thanksgiving, I called Nadia to ask directly, "What's the plan for tomorrow?" She answered in her usual overly busy tone, "Oh, we're still figuring it out. Nothing confirmed yet." Don't stress. Nothing confirmed. Really. On the night before Thanksgiving, I felt annoyed but kept quiet. Maybe they were struggling with planning. Maybe I was overthinking. Maybe I needed to stop assuming the worst. I told myself these things because I wanted to believe my family wouldn't purposely exclude me. I wanted to believe that after everything I'd done for them, letting them use my house whenever they wanted, covering their expenses when they were short, supporting them through breakups, failures, and crises, they would at least respect me enough to keep me in the loop. I was wrong. The next day, Thanksgiving morning, I woke up around noon, completely exhausted from the night's shift. I looked at my phone and saw no updates. No calls, no messages, nothing. It was weird, but I tried to shake it off. Maybe they weren't doing anything after all. Maybe they'd canceled. Maybe everyone was spending the holiday separately this year. I made myself a cup of tea, watched some random videos, and spent a few hours cleaning the house because I hadn't had time all week. The house felt quiet, calm, almost peaceful. If someone had asked me that moment what my siblings were doing, I would have shrugged and said, probably being lazy somewhere. I had no idea, no clue, that they were prepping, decorating, cooking, and organizing a massive Thanksgiving party inside my own home behind my back. Around 6 p.m., I had to leave for a quick errand, just picking up some things from a store that was having a holiday sale. I didn't think much of it. I grabbed my jacket, locked the door, and left. Little did I know that the moment I stepped out of the house, they were waiting. My neighbors later told me that my siblings' cars pulled up barely 10 minutes after I drove off. They had boxes of decorations, trays of food, speakers, lighting, and bags full of supplies. They entered the house like it belonged to them, not knocking, not asking permission, not even telling me. They knew I wouldn't be home for at least an hour. They knew I wouldn't expect anything. They knew exactly what they were doing. I spent almost 2 hours outside because the store was crowded. When I finally returned, I immediately noticed something off. My street was unusually packed with cars I recognized too well. My cousin's car, my aunt's car, my uncle's big black SUV, even family friends I hadn't seen in years. At first, I thought maybe they were visiting another neighbor. Maybe I was imagining things. But then I heard it, the loud music, the laughter, the clinking of glasses, the sound of kids running, all coming from inside my house. My heart stopped for a moment, not because there was a party, but because they didn't tell me. They didn't ask. They didn't warn me. They didn't include me. I walked up to my front door, confused and a little angry. When I opened it, my jaw literally dropped. The living room was decked out with fairy lights, garlands, golden tablecloths, decorated pumpkins, and trays filled with food I didn't buy. The kitchen was full of people. The dining table had a huge roasted turkey in the center, surrounded by dishes that looked professionally catered. Everyone was talking, laughing, posting selfies, recording videos for social media. My entire extended family was inside my home celebrating Thanksgiving like it was some huge reunion. And there I stood, bags still in my hands, like an outsider who had accidentally walked into the wrong house. Nobody noticed me at first. Nobody even looked in my direction. They were so busy enjoying themselves that the person who owned the house didn't even matter. When someone finally did notice me, it wasn't a warm greeting. It wasn't, "Hey, you're here." No, it was my sister Nadia rolling her eyes and saying, "Oh, you're back already. Back already, BACKLOEY. The audacity." I asked her calmly, "What is all this?" She replied as if I was overreacting, "Relax. We're having Thanksgiving dinner here." I stared at her. "In my house." Without telling me, she shrugged. "You were busy. We didn't want to bother you." My other sister Aisha chimed in with a smirk. "Besides, you never host anything. So we thought, why not use the house for once? Use the house. Like borrowing an appliance. Like I was just the landlord and they were tenants doing me a favor." At that moment, something inside me cracked. Months of being excluded, ignored, sidelined. All of it suddenly made sense. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't an accident. They planned this. They planned a party in my house without me and didn't invite me because they simply didn't care if I was there. They wanted the house, not me. They wanted the space, not the person who lived in it. And the worst part, everyone else in the family acted like it was totally normal. I walked inside slowly, still processing the shock. People greeted me with awkward smiles like I was the one intruding. My uncle said, "Oh good, you made it," as if I had been invited. My aunt said, "You should have told us you were coming late," even though I hadn't been told anything. My cousins avoided eye contact. The whole situation felt like a twisted dream, one where everyone agreed to pretend that I didn't exist unless they needed something from me. As I stood there trying to keep my composure, I could feel something boiling inside me. Anger, betrayal, embarrassment, all mixing together until it became something sharp and unbearable. But I held it in, at least for that moment. I didn't want to create a scene in front of everyone. I didn't want to give my sisters the satisfaction of watching me explode. So I stayed silent. I stayed calm on the outside, but inside I was planning. Hours passed. I sat quietly in one corner while everyone enjoyed food and music. My siblings didn't bother speaking to me. They barely acknowledged I existed. They took photos around my house, made TikToks, posted group pictures with captions like Family Thanksgiving. While I wasn't included in a single shot, I watched them use my plates, my kitchen, my chairs, my space, without even saying thank you, without even pretending to include me. And then the realization hit me hard. They didn't forget to invite me. They intentionally excluded me. They wanted my house, not my presence. And by coming home early, I ruined their plan. They had hoped I would stay out late or maybe work another shift. They hoped I wouldn't show up at all. And that's when the anger inside me turned into something else. Determination. Because in that moment, I made a decision that would make them regret everything they did. But before I tell you exactly what I did next, I need to ask you something. If you walked into your house and found your entire family throwing a Thanksgiving party without you, pretending you didn't exist, acting like you were the outsider, what would you do? Would you stay quiet? Would you lash out? Would you kick everyone out? Tell me honestly, what would you have done in my place? Because trust me, what I did next was something none of them expected when I asked myself what any sane person would have done in that moment. Standing inside their own house while being treated like an intruder, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't dealing with a misunderstanding. I was dealing with people who had stopped respecting me a long time ago. Maybe I had been too forgiving. Maybe I'd let too many things slide. Maybe I had been too available, too agreeable, too easy for them. Families like mine don't break overnight. They rot slowly, piece by piece, while pretending everything is fine. And when I finally understood that, something inside me went cold. I knew I had to do something, not out of revenge at first, but out of necessity. Because if I didn't put a stop to this, they would do it again. They would keep walking over me like a doormat. They would keep using me, my space, my kindness, my silence. So I stood up from the corner where I had been quietly watching everyone, and I walked toward the middle of the living room. The music was loud, but my anger was louder. My blood felt like it was humming. And for the first time that night, people actually noticed me. My sister Nadia saw me first. The look on her face was almost annoyed, like she was bothered that I dared to move. "What now?" she muttered, not even trying to hide her irritation. My jaw tightened. My voice was steady, calm, almost too calm. "Everyone," I said, "I need you to step outside for a moment." The room fell silent. Heads turned. Confusion spread across faces. One of my uncles frowned and said, "Is everything okay?" I smiled politely. "Everything's fine. But I need everyone outside for just a few minutes." People looked at each other. Some shrugged and began moving. But my siblings, they knew something was off. Nadia stepped toward me. "Why?" she demanded. "What are you doing?" I met her eyes for the first time that night. "Just step outside." My tone wasn't angry, it wasn't emotional. It was final. People slowly shuffled out of my living room and into the front yard. Plates in hand, cups in hand, confused murmurs breaking the cold night air. My siblings were the last to step outside, glaring at me like I was ruining their perfect little party. When the door finally closed behind them, I locked it. Not once, twice. Then I walked toward the speakers, unplugged everything, and shut off all the lights except one lamp. I could see the silhouettes of everyone outside, waiting, wondering, whispering. And then I did something that shocked even me. I grabbed the microphone they had set up for speeches and announcements, turned it on, and walked to the front window. They turned toward me when they heard the static of the microphone. I opened the window just enough to speak clearly. "Before anyone comes back inside," I said, "I need to clear something up." My siblings exchanged worried glances. Good, they should have been worried. "This is my house," I said sharply. "I pay for everything here. I maintain everything here. I'm the one living here. And yet all of you walked in today and held a full Thanksgiving party without inviting me, without telling me, without respecting me." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some people looked shocked. Others turned to stare at Nadia and Aisha. My sisters looked furious, not because they were guilty, but because they were being exposed. I continued, my voice louder now. "I don't care about the food. I don't care about the decorations. I care about the disrespect. You didn't forget to invite me. You didn't overlook me. You deliberately excluded me from my own home, and you thought I'd be too tired or too oblivious to notice." Nadia stepped forward, yelling, "This is ridiculous." But I cut her off. "No, what's ridiculous is thinking you can treat someone like this and get away with it." And then I made my announcement. "So here's what's going to happen. The party is over. All of you will leave, right now. And none of you will enter this house again unless I personally invite you. Not for holidays, not for birthdays, Not for quick drop-ins, nothing. I'm done being disrespected. The gasp that spread across the crowd sounded like a wave crashing. Some people protested. My aunt tried to step forward, saying, "Beta, don't overreact." I raised a hand. No, this isn't overreacting. This is enforcing boundaries that should have existed a long time ago. My brother Hamza looked at me like I'd slapped him. "You're kicking everyone out. It's Thanksgiving?" He yelled it like the holiday was some magical shield that excused everything. I stared at him. Being family doesn't give you the right to walk all over me. Then, with the button on the microphone still pressed, I walked to the front door, unlocked it, stepped halfway outside, and said, "If you don't want to leave, that's fine. But I will be calling the police and reporting a trespassing situation. Because none of you were invited. And legally, you're not supposed to be here." I didn't yell it. I didn't curse. I didn't scream. I said it calmly, clearly, and with absolute certainty. That's when the real panic began. People rushed to grab their plates, coats, bags. Some apologized awkwardly, clearly embarrassed. Others avoided eye contact entirely. My cousins whispered things like, "Damn, this is awkward," while shuffling toward their cars. But my siblings, oh, they were furious. Nadia stormed toward me, eyes blazing. "Are you serious? You're ruining the entire evening." I raised an eyebrow. "No, you ruined it the moment you planned it behind my back." She scoffed. "Grow up." I leaned closer. "Move out of the yard, Nadia." She did, but only because people were watching. One by one, cars began pulling away from the street. The decorations outside looked sad and cheap under the dim porch light. The laughter was gone. The excitement was gone. All that remained was cold air, scraped chairs, and a disappointed hush. When most of the guests were gone, only my siblings remained. They stood in the yard like angry children forced to leave a playground. Aisha finally broke the silence. "You're unbelievable," she snapped. "All this drama when you could have just let us finish the night." I stared at her. "You mean finish the night in my house without me?" She clicked her tongue. "You weren't even supposed to be here? You were working?" I froze. There it was, the truth. They weren't disappointed I ended the party. They were disappointed I showed up at all. "So that's it," I said slowly. "You planned this thinking I wouldn't come home?" Nadia threw her hands up. "We knew you'd be too tired to deal with hosting anything. We were doing you a laughed." A dry, humorless laugh. Favor, by excluding me from my own home. Hamza stepped in, annoyed. "Stop being dramatic. It's just a party." I looked him dead in the eye. "It's never just a party when you intentionally cut someone out." I let that sit in the air for a few seconds. Then I spoke softly, but with more strength than I'd felt in years. "All of you need to leave. Right now." They didn't move. Nadia scoffed. "We're your family." My jaw clenched. "And family doesn't treat someone like this. You don't get to disrespect me and then hide behind the word family. Not anymore." They argued, complained, accused me of overreacting, but I didn't budge. Eventually, they stomped off toward their cars, muttering under their breaths but unable to do anything. And when the last car's taillights disappeared down the street, I walked back inside my house, locked the door, and stood there in the quiet ruins of their celebration. Plates left behind, decorations half-hanging, food that nobody would finish. Everything a reminder of how little they valued me. But I wasn't done yet. Ending the party wasn't the real revenge. That was just the beginning. I cleaned up nothing. I didn't touch a single thing. Instead, I took pictures, every plate, every mess, every decoration, and sent them directly to our family group chat with one message: "Come clean up your mess by 10 a.m. tomorrow, or it goes in the trash." My phone started blowing up with messages instantly. "You're being petty. We didn't leave that much. It's just one night. Stop being so controlling. Why are you acting like a stranger?" And then Nadia wrote, "We're not coming to clean anything. Do it yourself." I smiled when I read that. Because I had been waiting for the perfect excuse to do what I'd been wanting to do for years. I typed back one sentence. "Then you're all banned from my house permanently." Silence. Not a single message after that. They didn't believe I'd follow through. They thought I was blowing off steam. They thought I'd cave like always. Oh, they truly didn't know me at all. The next morning, I got up early. I pulled out a giant trash bag, opened all the windows for fresh air, and started clearing everything out. Not into the bin, not into the donation pile, no. Into one huge trash bag, everything, the decorations they bought, the leftover food, the extra cups, plates, napkins. I threw it all away without a second thought, and then I took a picture of the filled garbage bin outside and sent it to the family group chat. Cleanup completed. This was your last event here. Within seconds I got a call. Nadia. I didn't answer, then Aisha. Declined, then Hams declined. Then a series of unreadable messages poured in. You're overreacting. This is childish. How could you throw away everything? You're acting insane. You owe us an apology. Their guilt turned into anger, which turned into gaslighting, which turned into them pretending they were the victims. But I ignored it all, because for once in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free, but the real revenge, the part that made everything worth it, that came later. About a week after the incident, my siblings showed up at my door unexpectedly. They didn't call. They didn't ask permission. They just assumed they could knock and walk in like they used to. Except this time, I didn't open the door. I spoke through the closed door. What do you want? Nadia said sharply, we need to talk. I replied, we can talk on the phone. She scoffed, stop being stupid and open the door. I smiled, not that she could see it. No, silence. Then a frustrated thud against the door. Are you seriously locking us out? Did you seriously throw a party in my house without me? I countered. She didn't answer. That's when I gave them the final blow. I changed the locks. You could have heard a pin drop. You what? Aisha yelled. You heard me, I replied calmly. The locks are changed. You no longer have access. If you try to get in, I will call the police immediately. Nadia lost it. You can't do that! I own the house, I said. I can do whatever I want. Hamza tried to guilt-trip me next. We're family, man. This isn't right. I sighed. Family doesn't exclude you from your own home. Family doesn't treat you like garbage. Family doesn't use you. If I mean nothing to you, then you don't get to enjoy the benefits of my space. Another long silence followed. Finally, Nadia said, so you're cutting us off? I whispered, no. You cut me off when you planned that party without me. After that, I walked away from the door. They kept banging. I didn't return. Eventually they left. The following days were weirdly peaceful. No unexpected visits. No demands. No arguments. No idiotic drama. For the first time in years, the house felt like my home again. A place where I wasn't being taken advantage of. A place that finally belonged to me. Emotionally, not just legally. And then, something surprising happened. My extended family began messaging me privately. Some apologized. Some admitted they didn't know I wasn't invited. Some said they thought I was running late. Some said they felt awkward the whole night but didn't want to interfere. A few even said I did the right thing. That shocked me. I wasn't expecting support from anyone. But apparently, my siblings had a reputation for selfishness that I had been too blind, or too forgiving, to notice. Eventually, even my siblings stopped messaging me. For months, we didn't speak. They tried to pressure me through relatives, tried to make me feel guilty, tried to spin the story in their favor. But every time someone asked me what happened, I told them the truth, a plain and simple, coding, and slowly, people began realizing the real issue wasn't my reaction, it was their disrespect. The funniest part. Months later, during the next holiday season, I got a message in the family group chat. From Nadia. Are we doing Thanksgiving at your house this year? I stared at my phone for a long moment, and then simply typed back, no. She replied, where then? I wrote, wherever you want. Just not here. I didn't offer an explanation. I didn't justify anything. I didn't soften my answer, because I didn't need to. She knew exactly why, and that was enough. So yes, I made them regret it, not by yelling, not by fighting, not by embarrassing anyone, but by setting boundaries they never thought I'd enforce. By standing up for myself in a way I should have done years ago. By finally realizing that being family doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means protecting your peace, even if that peace comes at the cost of cutting people out. And I don't regret a single moment of it. So if you ask me today whether I did the right thing, I'll tell you this: I chose myself. I chose respect, I chose peace, and sometimes choosing yourself is the most powerful revenge of all.